The absolute gall of YouTube's CEO. And worse, this is a topic we all know YouTube's algorithm will likely do everything to suppress. Can you see the sheer hypocrisy of CEO Neil Mohan claiming YouTube as a bastion of free speech? Yeah, that's right. You read that correctly. We all know they'll try to keep the blowback from this gaslighting noise under wraps. So it is crucial you hit that like button right now, because by doing so, you're not just supporting this channel, you're overpowering the algorithm, forcing this vital conversation into the light. But wait, there's more. We'll also dive into Meghan Markle's latest PR stunt, exploiting the death of her dog Guy for self-promotion. Is anybody shocked? I mean, I'm not. Is it a desperate bid to distract from the dismal reception of her Instagram and Netflix cooking show trailer? Or a calculated move to overshadow Catherine's birthday? Or perhaps it's an even deeper play, linked to the recent focus on social media censorship. We'll dissect this pathetic stunt, revealing just how deranged this woman truly is. So, like, share, and let's get started on calling all of these people out. All this and more on The Royal Grift. This is your daily dose of all things royal. Let me set the scene for you. January 6th rolls around, and Neil Mohan, YouTube's CEO, has the audacity to declare to the world with a straight face, no less, that YouTube is a champion of free speech. Oh, how I laughed, or rather how I seethed with anger at such blatant gaslighting. Speaking from experience, YouTube has a notorious history of demonetizing, removing content, and shadow banning creators who dare to speak out. We've all seen it, haven't we? From alternative news sources to personal opinions on political matters, as well as just simply sharing our opinion about Meghan Markle and the PR saturation of false narratives. YouTube has shown time and time again that free speech is conditional, and we know that they have secret blacklists because we've been on them for those who challenge the narratives, especially when it comes to Meghan and Harry. This week, Reclaim the Net lays bare the truth about YouTube's so-called commitment to free speech by lambasting this interview Neil Mohan had with the Financial Times. Here's what they had to say. In quotes, "Just because it's an open platform, it doesn't mean that anything goes," Mohan told the Financial Times. This statement alone gives us a glimpse into the hypocrisy. If YouTube were truly a bastion of free speech, why the caveats? The article suggests YouTube balances free speech with strict moderation, but in doing so, it shapes online discourse to favor corporate interests and appease advertisers. The piece highlights how YouTube has turbocharged its content moderation policies over the last few years, leaning heavily on AI and human censors to police what can be said on topics from vaccine skepticism to the origins of viruses. The narrative is clear. Free speech is alive and well until it isn't. YouTube's claim to champion free expression is undermined by the selective silencing of voices while mainstream outlets seem to escape unscathed. The article bluntly states, "The next time you hear Neil Mohan wax poetic about free speech, remember this. On YouTube, freedom comes with conditions, and the only real winners are the ones writing the checks." This is not just about policy. We all know this is about control, where the marketplace of ideas is managed by gatekeepers deciding what goes based on who's paying. So when we talk about YouTube's commitment to free speech, we must also talk about the strings attached, the conditions, the biases, and the corporate agenda that dictates what kind of freedom we're really talking about. It ties right in with Harry's cozy relationship with Google. Is it a coincidence that criticism of him and Meghan faces such scrutiny? I think not. Their narrative is spun with silken lies, but the moment you try to unravel it, YouTube's got a problem with you. Creators like myself who dared to challenge the falsehoods, the divisive tactics, have faced the platform's wrath. Our videos are manually reviewed, demonetized, or outright removed. Why? It goes back to the psychological warfare that these two have unleashed onto innocent people like us, all because they want to push regulatory reform, claiming it's about hate speech, when we all know it's about controlling the information and the narratives. Harry and Meghan both know that it's all about the algorithms, and YouTube's algorithms aren't just tools, they're weapons of narrative control. They push content that supports a very specific, progressive, global citizen agenda. But if you're not on board with that ideology, good luck getting your voice heard. This isn't about promoting diverse perspectives. It's about curating what you should think and say. You can't help but wonder if this platform is manipulated to serve the elite or the public. 12 days to go, folks, and it's my hope that YouTube will be held accountable. Their selective censorship is not just an assault on American civil liberties, it's a global issue. They've colluded with power, with the government, with influencers like Harry and Meghan to control what we can say and think. We need a platform where all voices are heard, not just those echoing from the corridors of power. I think Google should take a page out of Meta's book by getting rid of their global public policy lead for information integrity and replace him with someone who is American. Currently, Clément Wolff, who's from France, was also a technical advisor on the Aspen Commission on Information Disorder. How do you have someone who is a socialist and anti-American being the one setting policy that affects Americans' free speech? You can't trust any of these people. The fact that this guy had worked with Harry on the Aspen Commission on Information Disorder makes complete sense as to why all that stuff happened to a select group of us intentionally. Harry had access to the one person who had the power to assign teams to be able to monitor and watch us and take the actions that they did. And the person that I point the finger at for leading that charge is Sarah Data, and the legal system needs to go after her. You notice how Sarah Data has just disappeared into the darkness after getting exposed, as well as for the things that she did to Dan Wooten? Her day is going to come. And so will Christopher Boozy's. He's another one who's gone fairly silent since the election. 12 days can't come sooner, but it's coming. So now let's switch gears to this insufferable human being that we call Meghan Markle and the pathetic PR stunt that she pulled to gain sympathy, but instead now facing a whole bunch of backlash for lying again. Just when you think she can't go any lower, here she is again. This time using the death of her dog, Guy, to gain sympathy and support. The Instagram Duchess decided to pull on the heartstrings of the world by posting the announcement of her dog passing away. Now, I'm not going to take away the sadness from this dog passing away. However, I can't condone that Meghan is using this to promote herself, especially when it's not just the Instagram posts telling people that Guy passed away, but it's the orchestrated PR surrounding it in these propaganda outlets that are pushing out her garbage. That's the problem that I have with all of this. This dog didn't just pass away. Apparently, Guy passed away back in September, October. This is what people are saying online. I can't confirm it, but if that's the case, then Meghan is a manipulative asshole to be doing this, to pull on the heartstrings of people who actually have that empathy chip and are compassionate in order to change their thoughts about her. This just makes it worse for her. And then on top of it, you're going to go ahead and add lies into this post where you can be fact-checked immediately by the internet. You have to wonder what goes through this woman's mind and why she does this, because she's looking like an absolute fool. You can't feel sad and sorry for her because of these things that she does. In it, she details and says, he endured a terrible accident shortly before I moved to the UK, which had him undergoing surgeries for several months and unable to leave the clinic. Doctors said he would never walk again, but Dr. Noel Fitzpatrick said he could do it. H and I would drive late at night after hours to see Guy as he recovered in Surrey for months on end. I will always be grateful to Noel and his team, the team at Queen West Animal Hospital in TO, meaning Toronto, our vets now, and my friends and community. Thank you for loving him so. This woman seriously can't keep her lies straight. Did this accident happen in the UK or did this accident happen in Toronto? Well, according to Spare, Harry writes up some BS garbage about how Guy had wandered off and was found miles away with this unexplained, broken legs. And then all of a sudden we look back in time and it shows that Guy went through some sort of accident shortly after Meghan arrived in the UK. So which is it, Meghan? And then also you have Dr. Noel Fitzpatrick, who is a doctor in the UK. What is he doing in Toronto? So here I call bullshit on this woman again, but here she's trying to make us feel sorry for her because Guy passed away. And of course, I feel bad that this dog passed away. But at the same time, I almost feel relief for Guy because God only knows what torture he must have went throughout his little life. Everything about Meghan has been nothing but artificial and fake. Who's to say that this picture that Meghan is trying to paint for everyone is actually real and true? For all we know, this woman behind the scenes could be a sadistic motherfucker and had this dog killed in order to tell this story. Like, I would not put anything past this psychopath. Let's all not forget that Meghan had another dog whose name was Bogart that she abandoned. In this photo, as you can see, has a mysterious injury. So you have no wonder, how kind is Meghan to these animals in her care? But the bigger question is, if she does indeed have children in her care, that's quite worrisome to me, especially when you see these unexplained injuries on these animals. What's really bothersome is this montage that she put together that includes photos that are clearly photoshopped, particularly the one with little Betty. So it makes you wonder when you ask the questions and looking back at Guy and his life, and the children are nowhere to be found in playing with these dogs. I mean, we see little snippets of what we're supposed to assume is Archie, but how are we supposed to even know for sure if that is really Archie, considering it does look like footage that got left off of the Netflix mockumentary that Meghan just added in there? Perhaps maybe these little children, or what we're supposed to assume are her kids, are the child actors that they hired for the Netflix mockumentary. But even weirder is that there's only one shot of little Betty, and that's in a photo that was clearly manipulated and faked. So you can't even say that it is little Betty and really Meghan. I mean, the games that these two play, I think really is sick, especially Meghan taking advantage and exploiting the death of a dog who more than likely gave her the most love she's ever felt in her life. And she probably treated it like garbage, like she treats everything else. And what is a repeated trend, not only with Meghan, but also with the Markles, is that when things get too hot in the kitchen, they always throw out some type of pity play. So take, for example, when Thomas Markle got called out for his fake and staged photos, which were exposed by the very same writer who he had back into his home recently before he went off into the sunset to Southeast Asia. All of a sudden, we have the news of his so-called heart attack. Next, we look at the timeline of Thomas Markle's stroke just when it was exposed that Carl Larson had been working with Meghan Markle. At the same time, he was doing this YouTube channel with Thomas Markle Sr. All of a sudden, he has a stroke, and the one thing that's affected is his ability to speak. So he can't answer or explain why he decided to work with a man who is directly working with his own daughter. I mean, none of that made any kind of sense, but we all just gave him the benefit of the doubt and believed the lies that we were being fed. Even recently, when we look at last year and the Royal Grift had exposed that all of those photos and the childhood stories about Meghan going off to Europe all had been made up and faked and digitally altered. I showed every one of you how we were lied to. What happens? Thomas Markle Jr. disappears, but comes back and tells everybody before he addresses and starts threatening. Our recollections may vary for calling out the hypocrisy, inconsistencies, and contradictions that his mom passed away. And still to this day, looking up to see whether or not this woman indeed passed away, you see conflicting stories where on one hand, Samantha in an interview with the Daily Mail indicates that Her mother passed away in October, while Thomas Markle Jr. confirmed that she passed away in September. At this point, nothing that they've ever said to us has been straightforward. Always variations of their story that they themselves have told. So here we have Meghan Markle talking about Guy and this dog passing away, but chooses moments to exploit tragedy in order to play the victim. And that's what I see happening here. Let's not forget that Meghan exploited the death of her so-called friend Ollie Jus, which I don't even believe that they were friends, but she used his death 3 months later, after he passed, to take the heat off of the embarrassment of being kicked off as patron of the Mayhew charity, claiming that this guy took care of Guy when he suffered that bad injury. When now, fast forward, all of a sudden this injury had happened in Toronto and Ollie Jus's name is nowhere to be found. All these people that represent the Markles and Meghan that are putting this bullshit out into the public, you're all vultures. And people are just not buying into it anymore. This is a classic story of the boy who cried wolf. You cannot feel sorry for a woman who has repeatedly lied to the world on just about everything, if not all of it. And the so-called people that we're calling her family are also a part of it. So for those suckers who are still believing in the garbage that keeps getting put out there, is it because the mainstream media is not reporting it? Trust me, they're never going to report this because this has been the biggest scam that they also too have been suckered into. And at this point, for me having this opinion to say that we have been lied to, take a look at all the information and evidence that has been presented on this channel laid out. It's not stuff that I have made up on my own. These are facts that I have presented, allowing me to come to this conclusion with a reasonable justification and mind to do so. So for anyone to come back and say that I'm conspiracy theorist, then disprove everything that I've laid out on this channel and tell me why it's conspiracy, especially when it's coming directly from the mouths of the very same people that we're talking about here in this video. I really don't have any more patience for these stupid garbage stories that they keep putting out and polluting the media space. And I do believe now that a lot of this is to distract people from really thinking about other things or looking at other things. My mind is still focused on going after these two for what they did over the past 4 years. Not only violating my civil rights, but many others too as well. And I will continue to point out the hypocrisy. I will continue to keep pointing out the nonsense and BS that her PR people keep pushing out there, as well as the Markles pushing out there to show you that this has all been one big scam that was politically motivated. We are 8 days into 2025, and already this woman has started back up again by saturating the media with nothing but garbage. Is this a way to distract many of us away from looking at what they don't want us looking at? I think that that's part of it. But we've got 12 days to go, and I'm telling you, it's going to be full on when the new administration comes in and they start investigating this censorship industrial complex. These two and those involved with it deserve everything that's going to be coming for them for what they did. If there's one thing for certain is that we're going to see more garbage that these two are going to put out into the media, all to keep us distracted looking in one direction while they quietly behind the scenes be doing something else that they're trying to get away with. This has been pretty much the pattern that we have seen over the last 4 years. I don't think it's going to be any different. The difference now, though, that I think is really more focus on not believing anything that's coming out of their mouths and looking in these other areas a little bit more and realizing what they have been doing. But what do you guys think? Definitely leave your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content, but until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.